I wanted to start by showing my dot profile, and I wanted to mention one thing in particular. I use StartX. I don't use a display manager, and so if there's no display and if I'm on TTY 1 or 2, it runs StartX automatically on the TTY session when I log in. The other thing I want to show is my Zenit RC, which is run for my profile, particularly when my X session starts. And so I use the same config files for different computers, and I sync those. And so that's what these checks here are for, whether I'm on my home computer. But I wanted to show particularly this right here, and this allows me to print information from my rc.lua and be able to see that output to test things and that sort of thing. All right, I'm going to open my rc.lua. So in this video, I assume that you have the basics down of using Awesome Window Manager and the API and all of that. And just a little bit of background of my experience. I don't work as a programmer or exactly in IT. I teach Spanish. And so I just like to tinker with these sort of things. So I'm not a guru necessarily of Lua, but I've played with this a lot and worked with it a lot, and so I figure my experience, showing my experience here and what I've learned and what I've done could help you. So if you've kind of dug into Awesome Window Manager a little bit and you know the basics, then this is a really good video because I can probably give you some ideas of things that you might want to implement and how to implement those things, and perhaps it could save you some time. And I am open to advice or tips on anything I have here, and I'm glad to help you if you want to post, if you have any questions about something. And how was it that I started with this? I didn't copy anybody's rc.lua. I started with the default file, the default config, and I just changed things as I saw fitting to my preference. I changed things bit by bit. So I just started and I worked my way to what I have right here. So yeah, what was that timeline like? I switched to Awesome Window Manager in May of 2020, and by September, it's September 2021 now, but of September, about this time last year, I pretty much had it about how I wanted it. My rc.lua is linked below, and it's not intended for you to copy directly and implement because it will break because of how I've got things here, because it references certain files that you will not have on your computer. And so it's just linked there so you can copy whatever parts of it you'd like. Yeah, it would throw an error. A little bit on the styling. I have this bright green styling that matches my mouse color. And I have a big border. That way I can see where I am, what window is selected. So yeah, this is ZenBurn. I'm not going to talk about theming much, but I'll talk about it right now. This is ZenBurn theme, and I didn't like one of their layout buttons. I think it was the maximize. So I swapped that out with the default the one that comes with the default theme. So this has been a phenomenal desktop experience. It's allowed me to organize my workflow in a way I wasn't able to do so before. This in combo with Vim and just other things, it just makes for a fantastic workflow and desktop experience and staying on the keyboard. And so it's been fantastic. I also use a Vim plugin on my browser, which really has been fantastic because I'm able to stay on the keyboard even more, even in a graphical program like Firefox. All right, so here these are all the libraries that are loaded. This is very standard, so I'm not going to spend much time here. It's just stuff I didn't feel like sharing on my rc.lua, so it's called a do file, and so I have variables set here, personal stuff.lua. Error handling, that's a standard thing. Same thing, standard thing in this section. Here's where I set my theme. Here's my default terminal, which is rx.vt, which I love, absolutely love. I'm still using it. I'm kind of learning a little bit of alacrity bit by bit, but it's still not as fast and lightweight as rx.vt, and it has all the features that I want, so it's great. Editor, and I have alt key set as well as mod key, and these variables are used later on in the key bindings. I don't have a ton of layouts. I just have these layouts here, and right here I just set this L to this variable so I didn't repeat it, just to clean it up, clean up the text a little bit. It's my awesome menu. I added something to it, but maybe I'm not sure where that is. To disable my keyboard, I added that to it so I could use the mouse to disable my keyboard, so I could wipe down my keyboard after I eat my lunch. These are menu stuff, not terribly unique here. All right, so this is my calendar, and I just use a notification for my calendar because oftentimes I just want to see what day is what day of the month corresponds to what day of the week, that sort of thing. So I have this bound to 7, and then 8 shows the next 2 months, and then 9. I have that set to only pop up on my left screen. And this is my screens are pretty standard. I've got 3 monitors, and on the left monitor I have my. I'll just show this real quick. Do a screenshot. This is the only thing different about my left monitor. I've got the time, the date, keyword layout, and layout, of course, which is on all the screens, and then Nextcloud. All right, so this is my calendar notification. This guy has got, I assume it's a guy. I think it's, yeah, I think that's a Bell's name. He's got all kinds of stuff here. And so, yeah, it's just a calendar notification. And notice I've got my styling here, this little brown, the brown background done with the hexadecimal, the hex color code there. Yes, I won't spend too much time getting into how this works, but yeah, you can look at it, copy it, play with it. And then I call this later on, this function. Yeah, cal notify, I bind it so I can click on the date on the little screenshot I just showed you. All right, so this rc.lua is synced via Nextcloud to all of my computers, and so there needs to be a way of distinguishing what computer I'm on. So I have 4 installs that I use with my data on it, with my setup. They're clone setups. I have an SSD that I use to boot on various computers, sometimes when teaching. I have my Pinebook Pro, and then on my home desktop, I have my work computer. So these files here only exist on these computers. That's the unique identifier to say, hey, I'm on this computer, I'm on my Pinebook Pro, or I'm on my home computer. And I set this variable to true if that's the case. All right, battery status, VPN. I don't need VPN from work. So if not VPN, I set this variable about VPN, and yeah, it just lets me know on the system tray whether I've got VPN running or not, and know if I need to disconnect from that. I'm not a big mouse user, so here with the mouse I just use buttons 1 and 3. The default config has other buttons 4 and 5, but I don't use those. Tagless buttons, but otherwise this is fairly standard. Same thing here, fairly standard, but I just eliminated the other buttons because they weren't necessary. Set my menu width to 250. Made it a little wider, I think. Wallpaper. I do a different wallpaper for my Pinebook Pro because that's single monitor. The other ones have multiple monitors, so I use this, and the background is this, are these dimensions, and so it spans all 3 monitors with this setup here. So no reason to use FEH, that program, or other stuff to set your wallpaper. You can just use it, and awesome. Here are my tag names. Son nombres en español. So I've got names here in Spanish. Terminal, navegador, that's Firefox, explorador, file browser. Mezcla, esta es una mezcla de programas, a mix of programs. Palabras, words. This is where I launch my dictionaries. Varios programas, various programs. Utilidades. So these are different utilities, different things. Other various category things. So you see here where I've got 3 repeated. That's because I have different tags on different monitors, and I'll get into that here in a minute. I don't remember. I needed a space here for my Pinebook Pro. Okay, so this was really important. I had blurry icons for the longest time. I could not figure out why, and I realized I needed to set this. Set preferred icon size. And so otherwise it goes to the, if you ever go in a theme folder, you've got different folders for different icon sizes. It defaults to the smallest folder size, which is oftentimes 16 pixels. And my Y bar up here is 28 pixels, I believe. And so it was stretching that quite a bit, and the icons look blurry. And this looks fine, I think. Much better, makes a big difference. All right, so here is all the stuff I do to add different tags to different screens. So these tags are on every single screen. And then my home computer, my work computer have 3 monitors. So on the first screen, if screen.index is equal to 1, on the first screen I add this, second screen I add this, third screen I add this. So I have different things on different screens. Like I want my Explorer to always launch on the far left screen. Mezcla de programas, I use that when teaching particularly, so I want that. I know I could do a client on 2 tags at the same time, but for some reason I might do that in the future, but I just like moving it and splitting screen like that. Palabras, or my dictionaries, those go to the right screen. And then these ones, I think these ones would be on every screen there. And then we've got these 2, and this just puts, I believe it puts every tag on every screen, whether I'm on my SSD or my Pinebook Pro. Adelante, moving forward. I'm used to speaking Spanish when doing screencasts. Tag list widget. You can see I've got everything here in my notes. I've added a bunch of comments recently for this. So my task list, you got tag list, and then task list, and then all that. All right, so here are my widgets, and I didn't want to have the clock redundant and repeated on every single screen. So that's the main difference here. On the first screen, I add extra stuff like the battery status, the system tray, keyboard layout, text log. I add these things, whereas on the other screens, I just add, I add much fewer things. I just add the tag list, the task lists, and the layout box. All right, mouse binding when I click on an empty screen. All right, so one thing that this was something I think I got help with this on Reddit, And this is one of the libraries that I added that needed to be added to do this. And so I have a key binding. It's down below, and I'll do Super Alt L, and now I'm moving it up. I move the client and then I follow it. So when I want to move clients between tags. So I got next and previous, and down below we'll see these correspond to Vim key bindings. All right. All right, so I'll just open up. So I've got two tags here, 2 and 3, and before I was having to navigate to tag 2, tag 3, then 4, and I'm like, what is the point of going to an empty tag? And so if I just do Alt L, it runs this and it skips the empty tags. And this is something I wrote on my own, and something I ended up posting it later on, and someone else posted something else. I'm pretty certain it was more efficient code, but I was just happy that I wrote this, so I've kept it. But it would probably be more logical to put the more efficient code in place. But it works fine. See? Very responsive. And this is something I wrote as well, showing the desktop, Control-Alt-D. And I shared this on Reddit as well, in case others benefited. Because I looked for this for a little while, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then eventually I was like, oh, I can do it this way. So I cycle through the clients. Anyways, I set show desktop. Where is that variable? Oh, there's the variable. So by default, when you load, it's show desktop false, of course, because you're just going to be showing your clients. All right, so it just cycles through all the clients, and it minimizes it or unminimizes it, and then it changes the variable. So this toggles it. All right, so this one I implemented as well, and I wanted to be able to, my key binding for Firefox for just opening, for example, and a blank window would be Control-Alt-B. Or let's say I'm opening up my email. Control-Alt-E. Well, I'll go to my right monitor. I've already got something else that I want to be looking at. Let's say on my left monitor. Well, I want to open up my email on my middle monitor. Well, before, it would automatically go to that left monitor and open up a new tab. But I want to control, if I'm on my middle monitor, I want Firefox to launch there. And so if there's no Firefox client, it'll open up a new window. But if there is, so that's right here. But if there is a Firefox client, it'll just open up a new tab. So that's what this function's for, and you'll see this called later on. So I've got middle, this stands for middle one and right one. Obviously, LT_1, the left one, doesn't need to be assigned because there's on every computer I work on, by default, there'll at least be the first screen 1. So you just put 1 there. I don't really ever show the help. I don't really ever use this much anymore, but I used it a good bit starting out. All right. Oops. Zoom in a little bit. I'll need to zoom out again probably. So everything's Vim navigation. I use H and L the most. Navigating left and right on the tags is Alt key H and L. H for L. H for left, L for right, as is in Vim. And then if I want to cycle between clients, so here I'm cycling between clients on the current tag, I use Alt N. So the idea there is next client, or I'll do mod key Alt N, the next client in reverse, going back in index. If I want to swap clients, mod key J and K. So might as well do that. There we go. I did it twice because I've got this floating window in here. Mod key, once again, that's my super key. Yeah, so this is just to change focus to the other screen. Mod key H and L. Yeah, and this was, I talked about it up above. Mod key Alt key L and H to move the client down or up a tag and then follow it there. Restart awesome, quit awesome. I had one of these set to something that was too easy and I was accidentally hitting it. Increase the width factor. Okay, so Alt I increases, Super Alt I decreases. I don't use this very often. Changing up the layout. L for layout. Show desktop. I talked about that. Minimize, unminimize clients. I think one of these is in the client key section normally, but I moved it here. All right, this is stuff. These are my launchers. Let's see. Zoom out a little bit. Sorry. If you're on a cell phone. There we go. All right. So most of the time I'm either in Firefox or in the terminal. You see here Ranger launch, agenda launch. Those are scripts that I'm running because I've got rules set here, and the rules for whatever reason don't work with awful.spawn.withshell. You use withshell if there are things like this that are particular shell things that have to do particularly with the bash shell or sh shell. So, but I can't use that with the rules. It doesn't work, so I had to do awful spawn. And I need to look up, I don't quite know what the difference is between awful.util.spawn and awful.spawn. I haven't found the difference between that, and I probably should ask someone. Maybe someone could clarify that. All right. Open up terminal, open up my desktop, and then when I open up my desktop, I like to see what's on the LL is ls-1. That's my, I have an alias set to that. So I use xdo tool to send those keystrokes and then return so I can see what's on my desktop. You can't just do the E because it'll run that command and it'll close. So that's why I've resorted to xdo tool. If you know of a more elegant way of doing that, please let me know. Vim. I use Quake. I recently switched to using Ranger. I was using Thunar for the longest time, but I just feel like switching and using the mouse just slows me down just a little bit. I feel like it slows me down a little bit, so I'm getting acclimated. I used Thunar very little, but I'm getting acclimated and learning Ranger bit by bit and setting it up. It's my agenda. Blackboard, this is what I use for teaching. Not the content management system. It's what I use for teaching, just my terminal. And let's see. I'll just cat out Blackboard real quick. Why not? Yeah, so I've got all these flags, and actually with this one, for whatever reason, it worked better to just put it in a script. I removed set node. I took out the numbers and relative numbers because that's confusing, especially if there are numbers on the activity. Set reminders. These are my short to-do lists. Today and today personal. I should put, well, never mind. And so I want all those to launch at a particular place on the right screen and on a particular tag, and it follows that rules. And this is able to work I forgot to make a note about this in my rc.lua, but this is able to work because urxvt has a different PID, has a different process ID for each instance that is open. So if I do this, this has a PID and this has a different PID. So it's only because of that that I can set this to a unique location. Otherwise, were I using LX terminal or XFCE4 terminal, each new window goes on the same PID. Therefore, it does not follow the rules because it's already opened on a particular tag, and it just loads on that same tag again. So that is a benefit of one of the benefits and reasons, among others, why I use urxvt. And then a lot of other terminals do that, but I've got other things. So okay, Firefox. I tend to go to YouTube. I don't use this that much. This is kind of a funky workaround. So merge Firefox windows. I'll show you. Yeah, if I end up with two windows on the same screen, I kind of merge them together, but it means reloading the window. I haven't had to use this much lately, but I thought, oh, maybe this will be efficient or something. M for messages. So here you see this called over and over again, the Firefox launch. So it launches on this screen that I want it to, and not on the screen that has an instance of Firefox open that's not the screen that I want it to be on. I just use the web for Telegram. Oh, I forgot I had a key binding for this even. Cool. I tend to just use this copy of my Bible at church. So let's see. Then I have a different website that I tend to use on my browser. Okay. So here's all my stuff with work. My syllabi, my video site. These are variables that were set in the do file up above that I mentioned. Here's my calendar and cal notify. We looked at this function up above. I actually, on Debian 11, there was an issue with cal, so I installed the Debian 10 version of cal in my local home directory, so it would show the highlighting of the day how I wanted. You can do that with ncal, but I think, yeah, I ended up going with cal. All right, these are my dictionaries. And this, for example, this right here, it switches to it. If it's open, it goes WM control switches to it. Otherwise, if it's not open, if it fails, it launches it. And these all go to my right monitor. Speed Crunch, awesome calculator. It's a fantastic calculator. All right, D menu I programmed in to match up with my theme colors. Mod key returns. That opens the terminal by default, I believe, in a lot of them. Toggle my keyboards, Redshift. I don't want to double launch Redshift. I have a script for adjusting volume. And I have digital cards to call on students. I just hit a key and the whole system. I did a YouTube video on it, actually. Screen brightness, PyBook Pro. I have a script for that. All right, so this is perhaps a little more interesting here. So someone actually helped me on this because I didn't quite know how to implement it. And so as soon as I close a client on a tag, if it's the last client on that tag, then it automatically switches. It cycles through the tag and it automatically switches to the next tag that has a client on it. So I'll just launch something I know. And so watch when I close this, it automatically switches to the tag with a client on it. And you were like, well, but this was on there. And that's because I've got this set to display on all tags regardless. So how do I have that? Yeah, stays on top, and yeah, I'm looking at my webcam thing. I use MPlayer for that. I can get MPV working on it, but it still shows the bar at the bottom. Okay, moving forward. So that's what this is. I saw no use if I close this. I don't want to just stay on the fourth tag. I want it to move to where there is something. So very handy. So client.connect signal unmanaged, meaning I close it, and then it runs this. And yeah, I won't go through all the details. Maybe I can go through a little bit. So you go through the clients on every tag, and if there's more, if the client does not equal the client that's selected, then that means there's more than one client on that tag. Therefore, it stays on that tag. That's where you get return, and it leaves it. Otherwise, it cycles through and it finds the tag that has at least one client on it. TView only, then return. Because there's no we do return because there's no reason to keep going through the loop, keep looping. All right, so this is a big old function here. Wow, I left a big gap down there. Big old function here. When I move a client to a new window, I don't want that window I don't want the tag that was potentially vacated to just stay there and be open. I want it to then automatically switch to the tag that has a client on it, because what I'm avoiding here is having just showing an empty tag. I want to move to that tag with a client on it. And so that's what this does, and among other things. So I get the current tag. If there are two different clients, clients on it, then I leave the function. It skips all this, and then it starts running this code. However, if there's one client on the tag, then it cycles through everything and it moves to the tag that has a client on it. And then we move the client that was selected originally to the new one. And not only do we move it, but we preserve the tag that client was on. So it goes, so if it's on tag 1, if the client's on tag 1, on the next screen it'll be on tag 1, etc. So that's what all this is. There's an issue though. If I move a client and it is on the first tag that has a client on it, then sometimes then what I need to do, what it does is it skips that tag to go on, because it's cycling through before the client is moved. And so that's what's worked in here. And so, but there's a little bit of an issue there where sometimes, like here, if I have, it's my go-to item. So this is the first tag with a client on it. So if I move this to another screen, sometimes the focus doesn't stay with this client, but it goes to this client. So it's something I've worked out a good bit, and I can't get it to consistently follow. But the other ones, like if I move a trill, focus stays with with that client. And now that's on my right monitor on the 4th tag. All right. So here's where I run that function. That function twice, going to left and right. Once again, Vim key bindings. Mod key C to kill a client. That's so handy. I get on other computers and I hit mod key C and it doesn't do anything. Or maybe it's caused an issue before, something unexpected. Toggle floating. Super T to keep it on top. By the way, I've pared down in this document every single thing that I don't use. So all this stuff is, there are things that I use. Maximize. But I definitely kept this because maybe I use it every now and then. Cycles through the numbers and it binds it. Like if I do mod key 3, I go to the 3rd tag. This is fairly standard in the default config. There's a mouse stuff. I just use buttons 1 and 3. All right, rules. Here are my rules. Here's where you find the info to get rules. To get the class to set the rule. I really much prefer to have this set, as you see here, size, hints, honor, false, because otherwise there would be a gap, a little gap here, and ooh, I don't want a gap. I do not want a gap. What did I just do? I just hit Control D. Okay, client keys. So the rest of these things are fairly standard. Here are my rules. Applications. Here you get to see the applications I use the most. Zev. That's to get like key bindings, find the key codes for different keys. This is my PDF viewer. I don't use Chromium that much, but I use it to check stuff, web stuff, and that sort of thing. Use GIMP, some, Gpart. I put this in alphabetical order. I use this on the Pinebook Pro, and that's it, because I couldn't quite get InPlay or MPV working properly for my webcam. So I've got all my rules. Goes to screen. I want create on screen 1 on varios programas. LibreOffice. This ended up being the name of the class for it, even though I forgot how we got this. Someone help me, because I had a mess with LibreOffice. I had to do something really weird. It's ridiculous what I had to do to get LibreOffice to. It was the only program. LibreOffice Writer and LibreOffice Calc. It's the only program that refused to go to the tag that I wanted. But I do this craziness to make it go to the right tag. I do a loop and just like go to this tag, go to this tag, go to this tag. It's really inefficient, but it's the only thing that I found that works. And I'm not sure if this is true. I haven't tested it. I used to use LX Terminal. I've still got that set there. MPlayer. MPV, I think is I don't know if MPlayer is still developed. And MPV is fantastic. That's what I use mainly, but this is what I use for my webcam. That's the only thing I use MPlayer for anymore. So it's sticky. That's the thing I was in doubt about, wait, what is that called? Is that called sticky? Yeah, that means that it stays, like when I move tags, it stays on that tag. It stays with it, which is important. And it's floating, of course. You can zoom in a little bit here. Oops. I want pulse audio volume control to go on my right screen. Speed crunch, surf. I use this for one task. I'll probably change it. I'll probably change that out. View noise is photos. So these are the classes. You can get it by, I've got the cam end up above, which I always forget. Xprop, yeah. Quake has to be floating, otherwise it'll tile. Zenity, I use this in a script. For a prompt box, for dictionary. And I use Zoom for work. Signals, this is all standard stuff. And then here we are at the end. Is my border. Color. I'm not even going to bother. I'm not going to bother opening up my my theme file. Sloppy vote. Yeah, I would much prefer. I've gotten used to when my mouse follows, it selects it automatically. And now when I get on machines that don't do that, it kind of bothers me a little bit. So I've gotten used to that. It's nice and efficient. So auto start applications. Here they are. For these, I use the NM applet because I want to be able to see networking stuff because I'm either on Wi-Fi on my Pinebook Pro or I'm on various computers with my SSD that I boot. Works great. Obviously, the key thing is having USB 3 and not USB 2, which USB 3 has already been around for a long time, but it was a huge leap. I need to set my X defaults file for URXVT. And next, I put my bin file in Nextcloud, and whenever it syncs, let's say I create a new script. Whenever it syncs that, it loses its permission, its executable permissions. So I like this script sets a timer. Well, it waits, it sleeps for like a couple minutes, and then it marks it as executable. Whatever is not already executable. If Quake's already loaded. Okay, if Quake's already loaded. Okay, if Quake is not loaded, only if it's not loaded, launch Quake. That's what these double bars are. Same thing with Nextcloud. And then also Window Manager doesn't show icons on the desktop, which is fine with me. I like the clean look. But this shows me a notification of what's on my desktop when I log in. And so that is everything. I hope this was helpful for you.